owner or a manager point of view, this will be the performance across the agency. From a producer point of view, it's going to be more personalized so that producer can focus on their own goals and what they need to do to stay on pace. All right. So it's pretty straightforward. Left-hand side will be today's goal. Right-hand side will be the monthly breakdown. And then down in the bottom half is where we can use these filters to take a look at it from different perspectives. All right. Now, the agent determines what the goal is for the agency and the producers. They can also decide what metrics they're tracking by, and they have the option to track by the folio sales dates or a calendar month as well. All right. And then there is a mobile app that goes along with this, so you'll be able to see this and on all the other features on your phone whenever you're away from the computer. A good place to start, however, is going to be here in the Leads tab for the purpose of this demo. That is where all the sales processes are managed. So whether that's for new business, cross-selling existing customers, winning back old customers, anything that's sales related will be managed here. And the way we're managing it is we're putting it into a pipeline. So for example, this is a personal lines new business pipeline. This has the stages of new, contacted, quoted, and sold. These represent the steps for completing this particular process. But some agents have multiple processes. So for that reason, they can go ahead and create as many pipelines as they need to, like so. And the reason why they would do that is so each pipeline has stages that are unique to that process, so it's repeatable and easily tracked. All right. We got our pipeline. We have our stages within the pipeline. These are customizable. So if I click on this pencil, I'm able to rename the pipeline. I can rename the stages. I can also add or remove stages. All right. Perfect. Now comes the automation. So we're able to automate emails. We can automate text. We can also trigger task reminders. The purpose of that is to get the right messaging out there at a time that it's relevant. So for example, someone comes in from a lead vendor, enters our new stage. Hey, let's get started on a quote. Whereas someone here in the quoted stage has been offered that quote. So now we're going to use this as a way to stay consistent with the follow-up so we don't let them slip through the cracks. All right. So the automation is specific to the stage the contact is in. I am going to use Kim here as an example, but first let's talk about how to get people in here. One option is by connecting to a lead vendor. Whenever they send you a lead, shows up in this system, triggering a quick response, no matter if everyone in the agency is busy at the time. So that's option one. Option two is importing a list. So some agents have X date lists, win back list. Pretty much this is your option for importing an Excel sheet here, more than one person at a time. And then the simplest option is this add button. That's what they would do to manually create a prospect. Put their information in here, select what pipeline stage they belong to, which triggers the process from there. All right. Why I think that's important to talk about is because if they're using this system, they're going to want to start every new lead here. From here, with the click of a button, they'll be able to get that lead's information from Agency Zoom over into their quoting tool and then create them in Apex if they don't exist there already. All right. So here's an example of what I mean. So Kim comes in from the lead vendor. We have all our information here. We need for a quote, name, address, date of birth. I'll click on Farmer's Auto or Home Quote to take that information and pre-fill it into the quoting tool. All right. So at this point, the agent will be signed in already. It will take them directly to that quote screen and pre-fill that information. All right. So I just want to make sure you're aware of that. Yeah. Nope, it doesn't bring it back over. So to do that, what we do is create a quote card, but it is a one-way sync. It takes it from here and takes it over into that system. So I'll show you what that looks like. Yeah, question? Oh, yeah, perfect. So yeah, let's run through an example with Kim. Kim was offered a quote. We're going to update this by moving her to quoted, which will trigger the automation for that stage. But before it goes out, we'll be able to turn off individual steps or the entire series of automation based on how we plan to follow up. And then at this point, I already showed you this part, but as far as tracking the quote, they can either just attach the PDFs here, or what I recommend is creating a quote card. Here's an example of that. This is going to be a good way of tracking the quotes that are being offered if they're quoting across several different carriers or if they're offering multiple products at once. So maybe they're offering an auto and a home, but the customer moves forward with the auto first. Now the agent has a way of circling back to the home, even though they made a sale on the auto. All right. So as far as tracking the quotes, that's pretty much all we're doing here, creating a quote card so that we're able to attach documents to this specific quote. We can also send out a video proposal if we choose to. All right. And that's just pretty much, yeah, correct. Yeah, because right now it's only a one-way sync. So it's only from agency Zoom to farmers and not the other way around. Yep. And that's actually a good point you bring up. Outside of that one piece that we do integrate with, this is actually a totally separate system. So really none of this information is feeding into farmers unless, excuse me, feeding into farmers or feeding from farmers unless someone enters it. Okay. And then in the mean, through an Excel sheet, correct. Yep. So yeah, you don't have to do one by one, but as long as you put them into a list, then we'll help you help the agents upload them into the system. Okay. Um, yeah, we track the quotes and then we're ready to send that out. You can just email that over to them here with the send an email button, automatically attach any documents, including that video. And then if they choose to, they can send out a template that pre-fills that information from the quote uh, that they're sending out to the client. All right. So that's pretty much the process there of sending the quote out, tracking the quotes that are being offered, and automating the follow-up. Correct. Yep. So we do have texting as well. We connect to these companies here, but it is going to be very similar. So as long as the agent is using one of these companies here, most of the time we see RingCentral or Nerdphone, they are able to text from the system. Yeah, and then of course, you want to have a yeah, absolutely. Let me show you a different account here. Oops, excuse me. So that would just be a template that I selected. So let me see if they have one in here. Well, I'm just going to pick a random one because I'm not really familiar with this account's automations. So I'm just going to pick, let's say this, and it's going to pre-fill these things in here. So basically what I'm saying that to display is that in that message I just showed you with the email, it was just a placeholder that said quote info. So as long as I have that same placeholder in that email, then it'll be the same thing. But from the text perspective, it won't be that graph. It's just going to be that information within the graph or the table, I should say. Yeah, so what you could do is you could attach the PDF to the text message as well. But as far as that placeholder, it's just gonna for texting, it's just gonna put the values in there, but it won't put it into a table for them. So what you could do is you could attach the PDF to that text message. Correct. Correct. Yep. Is that something that would be a problem? Do the agents not currently? Okay, that's fair. But yeah, just so you know, that's where that's what the texting looks like. You have your templates in here with those placeholders, and then you select a template. It pre-fills that information based on the client. And then you can add any attachments or links as well. All right. Um, One more thing I want to show you is what to do with the people that have been quoted but not closed. So someone that maybe not be a good fit for now, but they may be a good fit for later. Let's say Phil here falls into that category. We don't want to lose track of him. We want to be able to nurture him in the meantime and bring him back automatically. So I'll move Phil down here to the smart cycle. I can decide why I'm recycling this person. When do I want them to move back? Excuse me. When do I want them to move back into my pipeline, whether it's based on a customized date or their next expiration date? So you can make this whatever you want. And then we're able to apply any kind of tags or notes. So when this person does come back, we can better identify them and categorize them moving forward. You're able to label and color code your own tags, by the way. And what happens is once we click save, Phil goes into our nurture campaign. We can stay in touch over time leading up to that recycle date, at which point he's going to automatically show back up into the pipeline, triggering the task to pick up from where we left off. Yeah, so I just did it manually today because we're on a demo, but you can automatically do that. And there are two ways. You can do it based on a certain time or a certain number of days or a certain period of inactivity by the producer. So, 15 days if they've been in the quota stage, let's move them over. If no one's messaged them in, 5 days, let's reassign them or move them over, for example. Perfect. Yeah. And then last but not least, we'll make a sale with Kim here and move over to sold. At this point, it does track the effective expiration and sold date. That's how the system knows when to start sending out your onboarding and renewal messages. Now, I will say most agents that I work with that are farmers agents really don't use it beyond that onboarding workflow because if there's anything that changes over the course of that policy, they would have to make sure it's updated in this system first. So usually people are using this purely for that sales process and then to automate some things for onboarding and cross sell. Because after the sale, you can trigger like a welcome email, Google review request, 30-day check in, life insurance cross sell, so on and so forth into the future as far as they want. All right. So, not really for renewal, but more so that onboarding and then that continued follow up and nurturing over time. All right. And with that, we're back to the dashboard for a summary, celebration moment, and then we can see how it impacts our overall goal here. And then one more thing, I mentioned that a good place to start is here in the leads tab, but realistically, an agent would start their day here in today's task. As they have all their various automations going out, there are some things that cannot be automated. So to find out what's on their plate for that day, they would head over to today's task to start the day. And then there are two different ways to view that. There's the dashboard or the list view. The dashboard is going to separate things based on what's past due, what to do today, and what's upcoming in the future. Whereas the list view is a little bit more customizable. So they're able to, filter this however they want, whether it's by due date or type of task, for example. And then from a management perspective, they can filter tasks within the staff, whether those are open, completed, closed, or overdue as well. All right. Perfect. So that is what I plan on showing you today. I mean, there's a lot that this can do, but just kind of wanted to focus on how most farmers agents are using this. Is there anything that you're wondering if it's capable of doing or any questions you have for me? Correct. Yeah. So we do have some cases where agents will tell me, like, yeah, I have a good amount of business outside of farmers. And in that case, I would talk about beyond the sale a little bit more. And then as far as you said, yeah, you're right. They wouldn't have a button they can click to get that quote. but they will still be able to track it in the same way with that quote card. And for those agencies that do have some business outside of farmers, that would be helpful for beyond the sale because then they can use that to automate how they're staying in touch with those people, not only for onboarding, but also for renewal and cross selling, right? So here is the customers tab. Excuse me. We're on the customers tab. The person I just sold is right here on top. And then if we were to talk about beyond the sale, we would see that here in this automation section, customer sold will be our onboarding workflow. And then prior to that first renewal will be that, pre-renewal workflow. Now, I say all that to say is that the system is smart enough to read what type of carrier or policy has been written and move it into the appropriate workflow. So maybe for farmers' policies, we just want to keep them in that onboarding workflow and go into the future as far as we want. But then for those outside policies, we can also enroll those into a renewal workflow. All right, is that pretty straightforward? Perfect. Absolutely. So when they first sign in, there will be a similar pipeline to this here with these four stages, and it will have automation across all four stages. And then beyond that, they are able to customize those existing automations or create new pipelines using our templates down here. So we have tons of templates in here, so they can use this, create new workflows, plug these messages in wherever they fit. Okay. Yep. But when they first get in, however, they are going to have something like this here. Yeah, that's one option. Or if there's a large number of lists, excuse me, number of leads that they're importing, it doesn't make sense to think we're going to follow up with 50 people or 100 people every day. So what they can do is they can import the entire list and tell the system to release a manageable amount every day, right? So let's say that amount is three. You import that list of 100, 200, so on and so forth, and then every day the system will release, three of those people into your workflow. Yeah, that is possible, and what I said there still may be applicable there as far as releasing a few a day into the workflow, because 2,500 is a lot even for three people. But what they can do is import that entire list and then decide to round robin across producers. Absolutely. It's a short answer is it definitely is possible. And then for a little bit more context, there are a number of different ways you can do that. The easiest way I would say is to separate that upon import and have it go directly to, John or Becky or so on and so forth, and use this option here, select staff member only. That's the easiest way. Um, Correct. Yeah, that's the easiest way I can think of right now. Yeah. So yeah, I split the list up and then upload it per person. And then if that's not what you would like, let me think. I'm thinking assignment group would also be helpful because now you can select certain people within the agency that list will be distributed amongst. Okay. But short answer is yeah, it is possible to send different amounts to different producers. Perfect. Awesome. What else do you have on your mind? What kind of questions do you have for me? Correct. There is a caveat there, and I want to show you this. So what we're talking about there is included in this plan, which is a click to call. But I usually don't recommend that to farmers agents unless they tell me they have a lot of business outside of farmers, because then it's a little bit more worth it because this is the main offering here, the service center. Whereas this plan here is typically what I recommend to farmers agents, where it has texting and emailing. But with this plan here, they would be calling outside of the system and taking notes on those calls within the system. Exactly. Yeah, so the service center is helpful for farmers agents if they have a lot of business outside of farmers. It's going to be exactly what it sounds like, but just a different set of pipelines. It's a way to manage your service requests, manage your onboarding, your renewals, and segment your different customer processes that are not related to sales. So, for example, we can do like claims in here, onboarding, renewal in that pipeline format, pretty much any process they have in mind, they can create a pipeline around it. And for example, we can separate that whether it's by line of business or by carrier. So in this case, we've separated it by line of business. So when we come to our commercial lines renewals, we're starting those 90 days in advance, whereas our personal lines renewals are more so like 45 days in advance. All right. And then from there, it's more of a if this, then that kind of scenario, meaning if there is a significant rate increase, let's move them here. But if not, let's skip over that and go to proposed or completed. Correct. Yep. So secondary pipeline, so service center. And then before we were here in the leads tab, which is where we manage our sales pipelines. Yep. So that's one part of this. Yeah. Yeah, that's why I typically don't recommend it for farmers agents that I don't have a lot of outside business, because it's not pulling that information, right? So it would feel like a little bit of double work. So in that case, what I tell people is sales will be managed here, service will be managed in that farmer system, except for in the cases where the client says, "Hey, I have a good amount of outside business. I can't really track it in Apex. I need somewhere to keep it all in the same place." Then I would show them something like this, because they're going to have to manually enter those anyway. But with your farmers policies, it's not as helpful because some agencies have that farmer service advantage. They also have, yeah, pretty much, their own resources within farmers to handle those policies. So yeah, unfortunately, no, at this time. Yeah, it's only in that pro package. Yep, absolutely. And three different plans here. No matter which way you go, there are seven people factored into these prices here. So seven logins. And like I mentioned, most agencies I work with that are farmers will start here in the growth package, except for in the case that there is a good amount of outside business to manage. In that case, we'll look at the pro for that service center. We don't do contracts, so it's either a monthly or an annual subscription, but they can always go up or down in plan or switch from monthly to annually at any point and get the discount moving forward. Correct. Yeah, so here it's gonna, well, let me start here. 25, 30, 35, number 8 and on. Correct. Yep. Nope, not at this time. That is something that we're looking to work out though. Hmm. Absolutely. And a quick question regarding that. So with a click to dial, are you talking about agents that have like a lot of outbound calling or just like one-off calls? Yeah, and the thing is, maybe I wasn't clear about this, but the vendors we connect to, like for example, Ring Central, they have their own native apps where the customer can do that. I was just saying that unless we have the pro package here, we wouldn't be able to integrate that into Agency Zoom. Um, so I just want to make sure that you're aware of that. And then the main differences will start here at event automation and down. But in my opinion, if an agency is thinking about this, these are the main three things to look at. So, of course, click to call. Service center would be your pipelines. You would have service inboxes for receiving requests, and then the separate service dashboard. So I know I'm going through that pretty quickly. So those are the three things that make up the service center. I guess I really don't need to show that then, but um, service center, the dashboard, the pipelines, the inboxes, and then event automation will send out birthdays and holidays automatically in the background. So those are the main three things. And then agency HR is something for employees to clock in, clock out, and manage their time off. And an activity tracker is going to be a productivity report for calls, texts, tasks completed for each producer or person. Correct. So you do have activity reports in here, but activity tracker is literally going to show you, hey, who did Andre call today? What specific tasks did he complete? What emails did he send? And who did they go out to? Whereas in the middle package, you're going to be able to see that these actions are being completed or that they're overdue, but there's not as deep of a report, is what I would say. Yeah, absolutely. So this is what the pro version looks like here. So you'll have like a little bar graph and then the breakdown for like task, emails, text, calls made. And then whenever you see these blue values, you can click on that to see exactly who they called. All right. So here's an example. That's the pro version. Sorry, question. Correct. All right. The higher one. Yeah, the one in the middle is pretty straightforward. So you'll be able to see things like, so one is going to be here in the task section. You can filter the tasks. That's one option there. And then you have other reports in this section here. So you can do like, let me see. So yeah, sales reports. We can also do conversion reports, which is showing you how well they're moving from one stage to another. And then funnel reports as well. And then this is something else in here. Let me add some data to this activity by producer. And sorry, I didn't explain funnel, but funnel will show you how many contacts they have in each stage of their pipeline. So, for example, this person has, 10 in contacted, but 50 in quoted versus this person has, 20 in contacted and 10 in quoted, something like that. Excuse me. So this is more so what it looks like in the middle package. It's not going to be as granular to let you know what calls, text, emails were made, but you can see, who's where and who those contacts are for each stage. So let's say, yeah. Exactly. Yeah, it doesn't have that information. And outside of calls, I would say, I don't know if that really helps though, but from a management point of view, the management does have access to like a shared inbox for like all the texts that were sent. And on an individual basis, they can see that history and the activities. So if I were to go here, I want to see text across my staff. I can do that here. Messages from and with who on my staff. So that's one way. And then always within a client's account, you can see the communication there as well in this activity section. And then, of course, that list is going to grow over time. So then, you can always just click on the filter for what you're looking for. Excuse me. Yeah, so I will say it is more robust in that pro plan. There is some good reporting in that middle package as well, though. Okay. Is this your first meeting or have you met with any other company yet? Okay. Absolutely. So yeah, I know you're kind of vetting out different tools right now. I'm going to kind of take a step back until you have a better idea of, where you guys want to go, and then we can kind of touch base then. Last thing is, we offer an extended trial. I have to do a demo with the agent first, but once they have a chance to see the product, I'm able to offer them a 30-day trial so they can test it out on their own before deciding if it's a good fit or not. Awesome. All right. Thank you. Have a great one.